There we go.
Let's see if I can get my phone to work. Here it is. All right. So, going the wrong way. Oh, okay. That's what's up. So I was at the end. Did it the wrong way. All right. So, Tarrant Regional Water District. Okay, so we're a raw water provider. That's it. We don't do any treatment, any municipal water. So we are one of 4 major water providers here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So it's us, and then right to the north of us is the Upper Trinity Regional Water District. They serve the Denton area. And then to our immediate east is Dallas Water Utilities, and then to their immediate east is North Texas Municipal Water District. North Texas Municipal Water District, they're the ones that always get in the news all the time. They're the ones that always get mentioned. As we were talking earlier, they're the ones that are having zebra mussel issues, and they are a little bit. Their supplies are down, basically because of that zebra mussel issue and the drought. So for us, we get our water from 4 major reservoirs: Bridgeport and Eagle Mountain, which are on the West Fork. So those are north of Fort Worth. And then we have Cedar Creek and Cedar Creek and Richland Chambers, which are down to the southeast of us, southeast of Dallas. Richland Chambers is the latest reservoir built in the system. It was built in, I think, 1982, about then. So most of the other ones were built in the 50s. Eagle Mountain was built quite a bit earlier. But most of them were built in response to the 1950s drought. That was the big kicker. That was our drought of record in Texas, was that. So, but with our supplies, East Texas is obviously where most of the rainfall is. If you look at the rainfall map of the state, you'll see very distinct lines of where the rainfall falls. So anything on the east side of the state, you're guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but you have a much better chance of filling up those reservoirs. If you're on the west side, you could build a reservoir and may never fill up, right? So you just never know. So what we do with our East Texas lakes, right here in Cedar Creek and Richland Chambers over here on the east, we have a pipeline system. We pump water from these 2 eastern reservoir lakes over to the Fort Worth area. Tremendous amount of energy to do that. So conservation is really, really key to us. If we can reduce demand, reduce the amount of water we have to pump, then that's a huge, huge dollar savings for us. But we get about 80% of our supplies now from Richland Chambers and Cedar Creek, with the bulk of it still coming from Richland Chambers. So when you see lake, you can see, well, I'm trying to point over here. I don't have a pointer, but you can see, this has a pointer. It does. Okay. How about I just use my finger? So right up here you see Eagle Mountain Lake. You see the little lake right down below it. That's Lake Worth. And then over here in Dallas, you see this little speck on the tree. That's White Rock Lake. So those were built in the early 1900s. And when they were built as the answer to all of our water supply needs in the metroplex. So as you can see, that didn't really hold up. So now we've got all of these reservoirs. We really don't have a whole lot of space for more reservoirs. So we have to really start making better sense of what we do have. And with our reservoirs, we can lose tremendous amounts of water just off evaporation. We can during the summer months, we can lose up to 2 inches a day in evaporation off of these reservoirs. So huge, huge amounts of evaporative loss. So, and if y'all have questions, just ask. So conservation is really, really the key, because with the state water plan, have y'all heard of the state water plan? Are y'all familiar with the state water plan? All right, so the part of this, our section of the state water plan, Region C, says that we need to get about 25% of our future supplies from conservation and from reuse. So we have our Richland Chambers wetlands project in place. That's going now. I don't have any information on that in my slide, but I'll talk about it a little bit here. And then we're also building another one on Cedar Creek Lake. So right now, it's called the George Shannon Wetlands. Right now, we're getting about 90 million gallons a day out of that wetlands. So, and that's perfectly great, clean water that very, very little expense to us. So, just naturally the water comes down the Trinity River, we pull it into the wetlands, it goes through the different chambers in the wetlands, is filtered, and then is put back into Richland chambers and we pick it up. So we're at about 90 million gallons a day. All that right now. So that's one, and then the Cedar Creek one we build it will be close to it. Probably won't be quite that much water per day, but it's another sizable project. So that will get us to that point. So now we need conservation to get us the rest of the way. About 12% or so has to really come from just conservation. So, and part of it is our next future supply in water. So down here on the bottom, this 0.36 cents per 1,000 gallons, that's how much we pay for conservation efforts right now with the city of Fort Worth. That's what we're paying right now just for our conservation program. If you come out here to our next projects, the integrated pipeline project at $1.36, that's already going, that project is going. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the IPL. You're not familiar with it? Okay, so I can go back to our map here. So basically the IPL is another pipeline that is going to move along this pipeline, but it's a little bit bigger. So it's going to give us the ability to move more water more efficiently, and plus give us a backup source if something were to happen. But one of the key features to it is a connection from, I believe it's from Cedar Creek Reservoir out to Lake Palestine. So Dallas Water Utilities has water rights from the state to Lake Palestine, but they have no way to access that water. So Dallas is splitting the cost with us for the pipeline, so that's saving us a tremendous amount of money, but that's going to allow us to be able to connect to water that's in Lake Palestine with the IPL project. So that's a big project that's going to help us meet demands. But these next reservoir projects, Marvin Nichols and Toledo Bend, how much those are going to cost us in the future, just demand. So an additional $3.50 per 1,000 gallons, and it's going to take at least 30 years or more to get anything like this program.
Now, are we talking about reservoir projects here or pipeline projects?
These are reservoirs. Marvin Nichols and Toledo Bend are actual reservoirs that are to be built, yes. Oklahoma is getting water from Oklahoma via pipeline and contracts. So, but still terribly expensive for the next supply. So again, the more we can reduce our demands, the more we can push these projects out. So, and population is expected to grow. The Regency plan has estimated that we will double our population in the year 2060. So close to 4 million individuals in this area. That's pretty amazing. It's amazing. I can't imagine having that many folks here, but it'll be fun. So the Lawn Whisperer. This is a big part of our conservation program. We started a serious conservation program in 2007, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. And what it has morphed from to this point is now the Lawn Whisperer, which we started in 2011. And the idea with him was to create a character that people could connect to, that people liked, that was funny, that was witty, that didn't tell you what to do, didn't tell people what to do, but yet told people what their lawns wanted them to do. So we created this guy. He can talk to your lawn. That's what he can do. That's his superpower. That's his claim to fame. He can listen to your lawn and tell you what your lawn is saying that he wants. And he's been a big hit since then. He's been all over television, radio, ads, billboards, newspaper, and this is the latest campaign. We did this last year. We're going to do this again this year, and this is Join the Team. So what we want to do is we want to get other people to connect with the Lawn Whisperer and to feel like they're part of the lawn. So join the team. Let's all save water together. His presence on Facebook is growing more and more and more, and that's kind of become our big avenue for him. Is that so? If we ever stop doing television, billboards, and radio ads, then we'll still have him on Facebook to continue to give out watering advice. So here's just some of the print ads that we've done, some of the headlines, and really it's about watering no more than twice per week or less. That's the big push. We've seen quite an impact from this campaign from where we used to be in like 2004. Even just when 2007, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, how our conservation program has kind of progressed. So these are just some of the ads that you'll see in the newspaper, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the Dallas Morning News, magazines like 360 West is another place that we advertise in. Do you guys get the Community Impact newspaper out here? It's usually a newspaper that everybody gets it once a month. It goes in the mailbox. I live in Grapevine. We get the Grapevine, Colleyville, South Lake edition. I don't know, there may not be a Trophy Club edition out here. So, but we'll probably start advertising in that because that goes to everybody. You know? And every year about this time they do a big lawn maintenance guide. You know, what do you want to start doing for spring? So some of the billboards that we've had and some of the taglines that we've had on there. So personable guy, really funny. It was very fun shooting these commercials. These were a lot of fun we did last year. But we're over 5,000 likes now on the page. That's significant. And when every Monday we put out watering advice, weekly watering advice, and we get so much more engagement on that than we ever used to get. So it's been fantastic, and it just continues to grow. And then now we've added some just maintenance advice and tips, lawn maintenance advice. So just yesterday, towards the end of the day, we posted something about lawn scalping. So just kind of a nice little thing, you know, is it right for you? These are some of the implications of it. This is what it's really happening. So we try to keep them timely, try to keep them going, make sure that that everybody's getting plenty of information. You know, there's a lot of information out there. There's not a lot of filters sometimes. So we try to, you know, not take one particular side on anything, but we just try to give the information out there. And so we get lots of shares, lots of great feedback on the page. So this will probably live in infamy. So. So yeah, we've increased since over the last years 65% in followers on the Facebook page. So one of the things that we're doing, well, let me get that in just a second. Let's talk about the conservation overview. One of the things that we've started doing is giving the lawn watering advice out, but we've been tracking that, and I'll get to what we've discovered here in just a second on that. So it should be interesting. So conservation savings, since we implemented our plan, one of the things that I also want to point out is, you see back in 2005, 2006, we were in a significant drought during those times. Those were very dry years during that time, and Tarrant Regional Water District had a drought contingency plan in place, but it had voluntary measures in it. So in 2005, 2006, that plan was implemented, and we looked at what our savings were from implementing that plan, and it was zero, pretty much zero. We got very little to no response from that. So in 2007, that spurred a redo of our drought contingency plan. We removed the voluntary measures out of it, and we, fortunately, we didn't really have to use it too much, but it also spurred our education campaign, our conservation campaign at that point. In 2007, we implemented no watering between the hours of 10 and 6. That was probably one of our largest water savings programs that we put in place. So amazingly, there was still a lot of people watering between those hours in the middle of the afternoon. So putting that in place as a permanent measure really had a huge impact. And then, as you can see, as we continued to grow our campaign, you could see how much we've saved. So the red line on top is basically the projection of where we would be without conservation. That is the projection of what we would be using today. So, and a lot of this was done by Allen Plummer and Associates consulting firm, and these models are We're just dead on, 98% accuracy, easy. So.
You overlay a population growth on that.
Oh, a lot of factors. Economy, population growth, job rates. They just so many different parameters that they put in there. It's just amazing, and they're really accurate. So now currently we're saving about 100 million gallons a day through our conservation program. So that's the no watering between 10 and 6, the twice per week watering, no more than twice per week watering recommendations. And it also includes a lot to do with plumbing fixtures. You know, the plumbing fixtures have changed dramatically over the years, so we're getting a lot of benefit from that. And a big part of it, we think, is just general awareness from the public. So this is kind of our estimation based on the demands today, right now, gallons per capita use daily. 100 million gallons of water saved is enough water to support 550,000 new residents. So that's huge. That's huge impact. And if you are a utility, you know, this is something that you really want to look at from a utility standpoint. So looking at our demands over the years. Again, 2006 was a drought year, 2011 a significant drought year, 2013, 2014, all these significant drought years. But what we've seen is a good 8 to 10% decrease in water demands. And our drought contingency plan for our stage 1 calls for a 5% decrease, so we already achieved that plus more. So and this is a trend that's declining in demands, and it's not just here, but it's nationwide. This decline is happening nationwide. We had a gentleman come and talk to us from Cascade Water Alliance out of Washington. They serve the Seattle area, and he was showing over the years how they would project their water need demands based on population growth. But then that population growth or that water demand would never come, would never show up, so they would end up having to redo their demand calculations. And what they finally got to was, okay, well, we're just going to look at a 5-year horizon time period. We're not going to look any farther than that. And by doing that, they would have built, if they would have built based on what they estimated demand was going to be, they would have had so many stranded assets, and people would have been paying so much of supply that they didn't need, and it would have been a bad situation for the general public. So this is what's happening. We're seeing a trend, a downward trend in demands, be it plumbing fixtures, be it education, whatever. So we don't expect these demands to ever come again. So. And here's our peak day use. So as a utility, when you build a system, a water treatment plant, you need to build that to handle your peak day use. What's going to be your maximum peak day use? And you're going to look at your peak day to determine expansion of that plant. Do we need to add another plant? Do we need to expand that plant? So we really like this, because if you look at where we are in 2014 and you go over to say like around the 2000 time frame, maybe a little bit later, we're at the same spot where we were with demands. So we've been able to increase, we've increased population, 400,000 residents, but we haven't increased our demands at this point. They've dropped. Our peak day demands have plummeted ever since. So we've got some spikes. We've got a few really low years over here. So 2004 and 2007 were tremendously low water use years, but they were tremendously wet years, astronomically wet. 2004 was, I think, over 47 inches of rainfall at DFW. 2007 was over 50 inches of rainfall. So it was definitely going to be low demand when you hit that. So one of the things that we've been trying to do is educate our customers, educate our utility directors, chief financial officers that we serve, to relook at their rates, relook at that, because demands are not coming back. Demands are going down, You can't expect them to come back, so now rate structures have to be adjusted to match this, because what's happening is the rates, there's not collecting enough revenue, and that's it's a hard situation to be in. But it's going to take a readjustment. It's going to take a realignment of things that they do. So here's where we get into the kind of where we think we're seeing some of the savings, some of the nuts and bolts. So we started doing weekly watering advice in 2013. So we've tracked that over 2013 and 2014 last year, and this is what we've seen. 2013 was very, very similar to these recommendations. These are almost identical overlays. So 31 weeks out of the year, we recommended you water your lawn 0 times. So, and basically, okay, here's what the basis is. We look at weather stations all across the Metroplex. Texas AgriLife, or A&M, has a number of stations that they put in place, and these weather stations crunch a lot of different data and come up with an evapotranspiration. Familiar with ET? Right? So we take the ET and we add in kind of a human factor, right? We put in a crop coefficient of 0.6 is typically what we use in the summer. We amend that over the years. You familiar with crop coefficients? So, again, no? Okay. So a crop coefficient is a scientific measurement of how much water a plant transpires while it gets water. So it's based off of, in a lab, off of a piece of like ryegrass that A&M has done, but they've come up with this 0.6 is the crop coefficient for warm season turfgrass. Cool season turfgrass would be 0.8. So you can adjust that for different plants. Woody perennials might be as low as like 0.3. Some type of English ivy or palm tree or something may be much higher than that, depending on what their needs are.
When you say 0.6 transpiration rate, are we 0.6 of what?
0.6, so it would be 60% of what the plant takes in, the plant transpires out. Okay. So that's kind of how this calculates.
So I put on an inch of water, 60% of that, it's going to
be transpired by the plant, right, through its stomata, and that's really kind of in the heat of the summer. Yeah. Right. So
when you're talking about those water days, are you talking that they are watering 3/4 an inch?
Yes, that is basically how we have set it up. Is 3/4 of an inch is kind of the maximum that we've seen. We did go a little higher than that on that. So we've broke it up between 1 or 2 days per week is kind of how we've broken it up. And that may change as we continue to tinker with this. So, but really, 31 weeks out of the year, you can just wipe those out because those are kind of not really growing season anyway. We really have about 26 weeks, 28 weeks of real true growing season here. So the other times your irrigation system probably should be off or should be run, just manually as needed. So 16 weeks out of the year, we recommended once per week. So that would be over 1/2 of an inch of water. Would be once per week. Twice per week? No, once per week. I'm sorry. Would be less than 1/2 an inch. Twice per week would be over 1/2 an inch of water. So, and at no one time did we ever recommend too much over 0.8 on the water requirement. So 0.75 being 3/4 of an inch. So only 5 weeks out of the year. So the word is getting out, but you got a lot of pushback on this and a lot of pushback on the twice per week watering, really because people were saying their lawns wouldn't survive, our lawns won't survive, our lawns will die at that. And we go back to what you and I were talking about earlier, and it's about proper maintenance on the lawn, right? It's about proper watering technique. So we have a lot of clay soils here. So what happens with clay soil is you have to put water on and you have to let it soak in. And then you have to come back and put more water and let it soak in. You can't set a sprinkler to run for 45 minutes on clay soil. You're going to get about 15 minutes of that water is going to be appropriately used. The rest of it's going to run off downstream. So what you want to do is you want to do a cycle and soak. We push this a lot. It could be 3 or 4 cycles if you're on a slope. You could have as many as 5 or 6 cycles if necessary. So you run it for a little bit, and then you let it sit for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then it comes back on again, and then it soaks back in, comes back on, soaks back in. And that's a cycle and soak process, but that's how you're going to push the water deep. That's how you're going to get the water down into the clay soil. And the deeper you get the water, and the taller you let your grass grow, the deeper your roots are going to go. So you want, and the deeper it is in the clay soil, the more of a sponge you get down there, more of like a little reservoir you have in your soil. So the longer your grass is going to be able to go through the heat of the day without needing. But typically the first 6 inches of soil is where your active root growth is going to be, your active root zone. So if you're pushing down deeper than that, then you're not really being effective, So you want to use a soil moisture meter or something if you have one to kind of test and see where your moisture is when you're watering. And I have a couple of those moisture meters. I'll give them out as prizes here in a minute. So this is very encouraging for us because it just lends credence to what we've been saying for so long, that people generally overwater lawns. The 3 times per week was just kind of a mindset that people were in. It's like a set it, forget it type of situation. So we're trying to move away from that. We're also, with this program, we're trying to get people to engage with their irrigation system. So many people have an irrigation system. They don't know where the controller is. They don't know anything about their irrigation system. And I try to tell people, just go out and just look at it. Turn it on and get the instruction manual if you don't know how to turn it on. Figure it out, turn it on, and just go out there and look at it. Just go out there and just see what it's actually doing. Get familiar with it. One of the programs that we offer through Tarrant Regional Water District right now is a program called the Wise Guys, and it is a free irrigation evaluation checkup. Right now the program is available in Fort Worth, Arlington, Mansfield, Keller. South Lake does it, but they don't do it through us. Where else is it? North Richland Hills, Bedford, and Grapevine was just added recently. So essentially what the Wise Guys is a group of irrigation contractors. They own their own companies or whatever. So they will come out to your house if you're part of the TRWD program, they'll come out to your house free of charge. They'll spend about 30 minutes evaluating your irrigation system. They'll come up with a program, irrigation scheduling program for you. They'll reschedule your program, your controller for you, and they'll go over anything that they find wrong with the system. If you have heads that are broken, if you have too much pressure, they'll write all this down for you, send you a nice report. They are irrigators. They do own their own company or work for a company, so they're not allowed to do any hard selling when they're there. They can say, this is what we've discovered. Here's your report. If you would like these things repaired, feel free to call me or whoever. So we think also that type of engagement with the homeowner is very beneficial, to get them to understand the irrigation system, understand how it works, understand how things are going on that. So we think we continue to do that. We continue to reach out. We'll continue to see these kind of savings over time. So, and we may, it's encouraging because the 16 weeks is really, that's a big part of the growing season right there. If we can get away with once per week watering through the bulk of the growing season, and your 5 weeks, so you can probably isolate those to August, early part of September. So, and I think that's it right there. There's our guy. Our lawn whisperer guy is not me, obviously. His beard's a little different than mine. He keeps his a little lower. Mine's a
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
Would you go back to your map for that,
Yep. The pipeline map?
please? Yes, sir.
Easier if I just get the slideshow.
Sorry, there we go.
There's
Okay.
there.
The lakes, Cedar Creek and Richland Chambers, were they originally built by the city of Fort Worth? No?
No.
Okay.
No, I believe They're Corps of Engineer projects.
Oh, okay.
Built by Tarrant Regional Water District.
Okay. There are other lakes in that region owned by various people, some by the
Right.
Corps, some
Yes.
by, I believe, the city of Fort Worth, and others.
Right.
Now, is there a long-term program to connect this major pipeline to share water with these other resources? Other lakes I'm talking about.
No, not that I know of. You know, maybe somewhere else there's some grand vision for that, but for us, the most sharing project, and really the first of its kind, is going to be the extension out to Palestine.
Okay.
Yeah, because if we can get the water into Cedar Creek Lake, right, then Dallas can access it
Okay.
from Cedar Creek Lake. Because they have access to that, but they have water rights to Palestine, but they don't have any way to get to that water.
All right. I don't want to sound like the three-quarter empty guy here for a minute, but with all due respect, 2 months ago at an ASCE luncheon, an engineer from your organization spoke, and she talked primarily about this pipeline.
Okay.
In detail.
Was it Laura?
I'm sorry?
Laura Blaylock?
Possibly. I meant to bring my notes, but
I would guess it was probably.
Anyway, she gave an excellent presentation. I knew none of this stuff before.
Okay.
Two things that she talked about. One, increasing the supply, like you said. She also went through, not quite in as much detail as conservation. It's primarily an engineering presentation.
Right, sure.
Anyway, she said, can you go to your slide where the people grow dramatically?
Oh yeah, I think that's.
I think it's next.
Oh, is it next after?
Yeah.
There they are.
Okay, I don't recall hers being quite 3.6, but I'm not arguing that. The question came up from another engineer that said, okay, we're going to have growth. You know, even if we don't water our lawns at all, and we conserve, is there going to be enough water? And the answer was no.
Right.
There is not going to be enough water. Okay. Now, having said that, is your organization, the cities, and so on, looking at that scenario?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
is that document available?
Yes, we have a document called the, oh gosh, what is it called? The,
Probably the Doomsday Event.
no, it's not called the Doomsday Event. It is called the Integrated Water Supply Plan. And I can probably send that to you. And I believe we have that in a PDF form. I believe it is on our website as well too.
I think that I have actually seen that, although I have not. It didn't say Doomsday Plan, so I didn't.
So you
didn't go there. Okay.
So essentially what that is that looks at our future growth, it looks at our supply needs, and it looks at the direction we want to go for our supply needs. So we have done tremendous amount of work to secure permits, to secure rights to access water from some of these reservoirs that aren't even permitted yet necessarily or built yet. So therefore we've already secured some of those things that take a long time to do. So now what we can do is we can look at what our needs are in a closer proximity. So we don't have to look 20 years out and say, all right, we need to get started on this project now. We have a little bit more flexibility. With conservation, we have more flexibility because we're lowering demand, so we can maybe extend some of those projects out a little bit farther. They're not as, and we have room to play with different things. So if we can't get Oklahoma water, okay, then so what's our next option? Toledo Bend's not gonna happen, so what's our next option? Marvin Nichols is not gonna get permitted, so now what's our next option? So we have a little bit more room in there. We have plenty of options. We have a lot of things open on the table. And I don't think it'll ever come time that we will run out of water. We will, be bringing supplies on as population grows, as we move forward.
You don't think they will restrict development?
That's a city, that's really a
City issue.
city issue, whether a city wants it. At this point in time, no, I can't
Okay.
see that.
Really?
I can't see that. They would restrict development.
Okay, let me tell you a personal experience, and this is a very short-term deal. I lived in Carmel, California in the early 70s when there was virtually no water. And we were limited, and this is my wife and 2 small kids, to 40 gallons per person per day, and they read the meter every day.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you.
Every day, yeah.
Every
Oh,
day.
yeah.
And Clint Eastwood was the mayor, so you were enforced. Okay, so that to me was probably the most extreme situation.
Correct.
And you basically had to use your cooking water and so-called brown water, whatever you had, to water your plants. Okay, but to manage 40 gallons per person per day for all of your needs is a challenge.
Absolutely.
Is a big challenge.
Absolutely.
And I guess that sort of leads to a question: is Zeroscape going to start? You know, we're doing lawns, but is Zeroscaping going to sort of move? Are we going to step into that pretty soon?
I would hope so. Now, we've moved away from using the term xeriscape just because it gets a little bit of a bad...
Okay, well, what do
people
you...
don't understand it,
Okay,
right? So we
what do
use
you-
conservation landscaping or efficient landscaping,
Okay.
those type of terms. And California did put in a mandatory water efficiency plant program, so every city has to adopt this. And one of the things that is actually starting to happen is North Texas Municipal Water District, the general manager over there is very interested in producing a regional landscape ordinance that would be regional. So we have done some work on that and presented some of that to our customers at the Tarrant Regional Water District level. Dallas Water Utilities is currently going through their landscape ordinance, making some amendments to that. And I think what we'll have to start seeing, and so when you look at water demands, 50 to 60% of all the water we use is outdoor landscape. That's the way it is, and probably again 50% of that is wasted, right? So part of curbing the waste will help, but a native landscape will take as much water as you want to give it as well. So there's an educational component to it, huge educational component. But the fear is we're going to look like Arizona, and we're going to look like desert. And that doesn't need to be the case. We still get a good 30 inches of rain a year here, so we can manage some turf grass. But what we have to move away from, I think, is managing huge amounts of turf grass just to take up space. Like commercial sites, I'd love to see commercial sites use less turf grass, more plant material. And I'd also love to see sites that are at least an acre or more go to some type of a water budget. Water budgeting is huge in California right now. They're using aerial photographs of properties, and then they're doing a little ground truthing. They're measuring out those properties, and then they're coming up with water budgets for them. And East Bay Mud is very active in doing that right now.
Okay.
And, so that might be the direction that we're going to try to get hold of some of that.
In Texas, we have I'm not saying it's like capture, right to capture, which is kind of a combination of groundwater, well water, and so on. My question is, as part of your plan, do you see the regulation of water wells in your district? Or maybe even statewide?
Yeah, we're already kind of seeing a little bit of that. Not from a legislative standpoint, but not from a heavy-handed standpoint, right? So what they're doing is, and one has been in place, I think, since 2006 or 7 now, is conservation districts. So they create a groundwater conservation district, and really the job of this district is to look at the depth of the wells that are being drilled, look at what's currently there, do some studies on it to see what kind of water is available out of there. And then part of the regulation from the state is they have to set something called the desired future condition. So how low can this aquifer go and still be effectively used, right? What is the lowest that they could possibly get to it, right? And that's their cap right there. So that's their future desired condition. You can never get below this point, so now they've got to do whatever they need to do to make sure they stay above that point. So conservation or whatever. So and they, as these districts come in, they have to, every new well that's drilled has to be permitted and go through the district. And part of it is really making sure that somebody who's had a well is not abusing that water, and also to make sure that when a new well comes in, it's not impacting wells that are already existing. Because they want, you don't want Mrs. Jones.
They will impact wells, yeah.
Right, and so they're trying to make sure that everything's good. Mrs. Jones is there and she's, getting her 40 gallons a day, whatever, pumping. You don't want this, and she's been doing that for, 45 years. You don't want this new well to come in and then all of a sudden she can only get 20. Right. But they are getting, they are getting more ability to meter wells. There's certain things that happen when they put them in their bylaws and rules that will allow them to actually meter some of these wells. And right to capture is very contentious. It's very goes all the way into oil and gas rights as well. And,
sure.
And and I think at some point the legislature will probably have to tackle it to some degree to get a better handle on it. But it's not going unnoticed. I mean, it is being dealt with slowly and surely.
Are there any documents that you know of out there that talk about this type of issue?
Well, the Texas Water Development Board, they are the ones that regulate all the wells. Anybody who's a driller needs to be permitted through the Texas Water Development Board, and they will do review of those. So the newest one, the one for Tarrant County, is called the Upper Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, and they, I believe, were started in 2007, but they worked under Benbrook Water Utility up until just very recently, and now they have their own staff and their own office.
Trinity Conservation?
I think it's the Upper Trinity Groundwater Conservation District. Yeah. Dr. Bob Patterson was the director of that, but I believe he's since retired. Although he did a presentation last week at an organization. So,
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you.
Back in the water for the drilling, I think every county has to have their own conservation district board. So there's one out here in Denton County.
Oh, is that right?
And they have 5 members. And again, it's all the new, any well that has to be drilled. It was more prospective, future well drilling, and they kind of grandfathered in the old ones.
Right, most of the ones are grandfathered in, but they do have some of the groundwater districts do have the ability to go in and shut down a well or to meter an older well that's been grandfathered if it is deemed to be being abused, basically.
Basically, they're running it wide open and sucking all the water.
Right.
Yeah.
But like some of the aquifers around here, the shallower aquifers have been almost depleted. So like the Trinity aquifer is like the mainstay in this particular area, and that's about 1,400 feet down. So it's a deep aquifer. And again, I was asked about this board. Again, it was about 2009 they really kicked it off. And again, at that time they had no staff. They had nothing. I mean, they were starting. I haven't talked to anybody up there lately, so I'm not even sure where they are. But if anybody here, like a town or somebody wanted to drill a well, you have to get permitted first.
Okay. Thank you.
You mentioned wetlands. Is the wetlands concept that you're using where you take effluent and then put it in on one end and then filter it through the wetlands and then pick the water off the other end?
Well, it's treated because it's
But
discharge
treated
water.
when it gets there,
Right.
it's treated as fluid.
Right,
But-
right. It's basically we're picking up discharge water that's back into the treatment.
Okay.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Some people, you live on a space station for years, and it's like, what's your problem with running it through there, really?
Yeah. North Texas Municipal Water District also has a wetlands project. I'm not sure how much water they move through theirs. Ours, I think the maximum that we are permitted for is 120 million gallons a day. I don't think
That's a bunch.
it's a lot now, but I don't think we can actually do that. I don't think I don't think the wetland can handle that much. But if we were to add another cell to it, then maybe we could get that much. But the plan is now to go forward and do the one on Cedar Creek Lake. This one, the George Shannon's on Richland and Chambers. We'll do one on Cedar Creek. And I think the guesstimation there is that one would be about 60 to 70 million gallons. It'd be a little small.
Going back to the previous slide where you're showing the future projects, okay, Marvin Nichols and Toledo, where are they located?
I believe they're in East Texas, and I don't know exactly where, but maybe like around the Sulphur Basin might be where Marvin Nichols is located. So I know they're in East Texas. West Texas has proved to be not very reliable. Since Ivy and Spence were built, I think those are probably the latest reservoirs built out there, and I don't know if they've been full too often.
Now, what's the prospective timing for those two reservoirs to come online?
Oh, it could. I don't know the exact dates, to tell you the honest truth, but
I'm talking
Marvin Nichols is probably the closest one along.
Within a decade.
Maybe. I would say Marvin Nichols is the one that's farthest along. And so when I worked for TCEQ, let's see, 16 years ago, that permit was on my desk, came across my desk. So that's just the permitting process. The permitting process could be 15, 20 years. And then the actual building of the lake. So I mean, it's 30, 35-year process to get the lake put in a reservoir.
The other prospect there is buying the land.
Right, and then you have to actually secure the land, and then you actually have to fill the thing in.
So where they're going to be located, you're going to basically have to build another extension.
It would have to be, we would have to bring the water in somehow, either gravity feed through, and all this is engineered. They look at the receiving streams, and they look at, where the watersheds and how we can move water. We have our Western Division reservoirs, all that's gravity feed. We can pull the water down pretty easily. Too bad we don't. Rainfall is so minimal over there that it's hard to fill those lakes up enough for us to really access them.
Any feel where we are with obtaining Oklahoma water?
No, I haven't heard much about that. We have a little project that we're working with Wichita Falls, and I think it's called Ringgold is the reservoir, and so that would be taking Oklahoma water. We would be sharing some of that water with Wichita Falls, and then us. That might be the project that's closest along as far as Oklahoma water, but I honestly don't know really where we are.
They still haven't put an aqueduct underneath the river?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't. We haven't. I haven't seen any of those plans. So we'll it's never out of the question. We just keep working and keep playing nice with our neighbors. And one of the things that we, and I didn't mention is in the state water plan, it specifically states that one must practice the highest practicable level of water conservation, period. So if you want to get an interbasin transfer, which is the only way we're going to be able to get more water sources, is we're going to have to get it from one basin and bring it to our basin. We are going to have to demonstrate the highest practicable conservation. So, and I think we're doing that through our conservation program. I think we're doing a lot. We've got a lot more coming. But that's going to be the big pushes. The state's not going to want to give, and really the environmental organizations, the Sierra Club, and some of those are going to protest a lot of these water rights. They're going to also be critical in this to see that, okay, yes, they are conserving, they are doing the right thing, they're not just wasting water. Dallas has always been known as water hogs. To be able to get some of these projects through and be able to get some of them permitted is, we're going to have to make sure that we're efficient and doing everything that we can to make sure that we really do need this extra, supply from the source. Yeah. That it?
Well, thank you very much. It's very interesting.
Y'all want some prizes?
Absolutely. Yeah, I want one of those mushrooms.
You want to push me or absolutely? I'll just give them out.
I've got one.
Well, I don't, so.
Well, I look at that one. One of the things that, one of the problems that I have with restricted watering is that when we went to restricted watering, my water use actually went up. And the reason it went up is because I was one of those guys that was watching my lawn, and when it got worse, you go out and walk on it, you can see your path, it was time to water the lawn. And so I would
just getting
feed
his
it,
question.
I use an inch. I would feed it 6 inch moisture, and it could go 10 days.
Yeah.
Or longer before it started showing it. But that doesn't work under a regulatory environment.
Right.
And there's very small segment probably that watches it.
Yeah, right, and that's a big part of it is homeowners are generally timid about their irrigation control. They don't understand it. They don't understand it. So when you're getting into a situation like what we're doing, where we're asking people to sometimes make adjustments to each of their stations, there's the opportunity to make mistakes there. So what I would like to do is, most controllers nowadays that people have a seasonal budget feature on it. So, and that's the easiest way to make adjustments. So you program your controller for 100%, right? That's it, 100%. That would be 1 inch of water, right? And then you use your seasonal budget to go on that. So if it's 50%, then you just go 50%. 75%, if you need to go over, then you can go over if you want to. But you set it for 100%, and to me 1 inch is easy. Even though that's above our requirement, we've never been that high, but 1 inch is easy. And if you want people to do things, you want people to engage, you got to make it easy and simple for them, right?
Yeah.
So what's half of 100 is 50. What's half of 50 is 25, right? So what's half of 75? So I gotta scratch my head on that, right? Right. So that makes things a little bit more. That takes some thought, and then sometimes you lose a homeowner when they have to put thought into it, right? And it's a lot of this is the master plan communities where every home comes with an irrigation system. When the homeowner moves in, it's set on an establishment schedule, so it's going 3 days a week. The homeowner doesn't know how to change it. They get a huge water bill. They end up turning the thing off, and then their lawn dries up, and now they're in a spot where they're turning it back on. They're trying to get their lawn back. So this is a lot of misunderstanding. What does it take to be a water wise? Get the water guys engaged? You talk about different communities. What's it take? Well, it's a community program. So what the city basically would hire the wise guys. So here the process works.
It would be the mud.
Right. So the mud would do it. So basically, the mud would pay a fee to an upfront annual fee for the wise guys to come in. That takes care of all of your administration fees and your costs. I don't know what that is. Could be $1,500, maybe somewhere in there, $1,000, and then it's $65 per evaluation that's done.
Back to
Yeah, right. So basically, the way we do it is we have a certain amount of money in our budget, and we say up front with the wise guys, we pay our administration fee for all of our communities that are involved, and we say we will do up to 700 evaluations for all of these communities. So one of the things that we do is we give away rain sensors as well. So we buy 350 rain and tree sensors. The wise guy contractors will come by and pick them up, and when they're out in the field, they do an evaluation. If there's no rain sensor, or the rain sensor is broken, then they'll go ahead and install that rain sensor free of charge for that homeowner, and then they'll bill us for the install. Yeah. So if you want to know more about the program, let me know. I'll be more than happy to get you in touch with John and Doug, Bepo Company, if there's some way we can work together, since you're one of our customers, to get you kind of into the program. South Lake's been doing it on their own for a long time, and they have it in their budget, and they don't seem to want to change that at all. So we're good with that, and we're just trying to get the other communities to keep doing it. So. So,